Well, hi there, John. I wanted to grab you for a few minutes and talk about your new book, which I must admit I'm so enthusiastic about that I actually wrote the foreword to it because I think it's such an important topic. And what was really exciting for me about this book is that it's a topic that has really affected me personally. You've written about how to be able to focus. There's this kind of term bandied about of ADHD. Personally, I kind of like to avoid that because it seems to be pathologizing something which I think is more of a tendency we all have. We all have these days. So I've witnessed personally the tragedy of this being pathologized, particularly in my youngest son who had difficulty focusing, and people started to say, oh, he's got this condition, whereas in fact you've demonstrated that this is actually a lot of it's to do with lifestyle choices. So give us a little overview of how quickly your book can get someone back on track who's having difficulty focusing.
Okay, well, the title of the book is Staying Focused in a Hyper World. And the subtitle is Natural Solutions for ADHD, Memory, and Brain Performance. Now, I have the same sentiment with you with the term ADHD. It's totally misunderstood by everybody, but because it is, I'm addressing that same condition that people call ADHD, but with a whole different perspective. Often people say, well, do you think ADHD is real? My first answer is, if you mean, do I think we should be giving medicine for it? No. It's not a disease. And even the DEA wants to have them stop saying that this is a disease and needs drugs. They're trying to stop the drugs as well. The bottom line here is that there's a condition where we are all being overstimulated by technology, by high carbohydrates in our diet, sugar, various things, certain over-the-counter drugs. These things overstimulate the brain. And what happens is it starts changing the brain. Now, the brain can change back, but it does change the brain, and the brain becomes less able to respond to normal stimulation. Life becomes boring in a sense, and we have to seek out greater stimulation. So to avoid boredom, some people don't feel the boredom because they're always looking for that stimulation. They're looking for their next email. They're looking for their next text message. They're constantly being stimulated in ways that people never were so overstimulated. Now, children even are being born this way because mothers were overstimulated or they had high blood sugar in the womb. And the condition is real. We shouldn't be giving medicine for it, but there's natural solutions for this, lifestyle changes that can reverse it back to a brain which is able to relax, able to be introspective, able to appreciate intimacy, isn't always rushing around or feeling overwhelmed. This condition, ADHD, has been linked to dopamine function in the brain. Now, dopamine gives us motivation, it gives us pleasure, it gives us focus. This is an interest. So we're interested in something, dopamine goes up. So my favorite phrase for it is inhibited dopamine function. And it doesn't just show up in the classic ADHD symptoms, but in all areas. Wherever your natural tendencies are, they become hyper tendencies. So for kids that are naturally active, more active than others, they become hyperactive. That would be a bold temperament. Kids who are like more creative and expressive, talented in those certain ways of expression, they tend to become very disorganized, scattered, they lose things, and that's called hyper distracted. They can't stay focused, or they tend to procrastinate, wait to the last minute, and then they finish up. So they get excited about things and drop them. So these things all have consequences in our relationships today. Then there's, but that's just two of the symptoms, which are classically ADHD type symptoms, hyperactive, hyper-distracted. But there's also sensitive temperaments. Some people just have greater sensitivity. They tend to be more loving, more giving, more sharing, and more self-aware of what's going on inside of them. They're more considerate of others. And they easily get hurt when other people are not as considerate of them because they assume, well, if you love me, you would do this for me. Take that natural sensitivity, which in itself will have challenges in life, make it a hypersensitivity, and now you have somebody with mood disorder where they tend to become depressed or they have mood swings. You take another natural temperament, which is a more responsible child, more responsible adult, easy as you go, one step at a time, that sort of thing. They like to create order and structure. Well, if you add hyper to that, what you get is obsessive compulsive disorder, hyper perfectionist, hyper resistant to change. You know, you say to them, let's do this. Oh, no, we can't do that because of this. They impulsively resist. The active child impulsively takes risks. The creative child impulsively has thoughts and reactions and makes decisions quickly. And the sensitive one impulsively has automatic emotional responses to things. And later they go, I didn't mean to say that. So this is a phenomenon which is occurring. I've talked about the 15 causes of it in the last 30 years, new aspects of our lives that have been introduced. I mentioned a couple of them.
So what you're saying here is no matter what our temperament, being very distracted will bring out the worst in us. Getting over that distraction and balancing the brain will turn what otherwise seemed a pathology into a gift, right?
Well, distraction, again, is only one of the things. It's a hyper sense. So if you're a distracted type, you're going to become hyper distracted. Mm-hmm. And, often people say, well, I have ADHD distracted. I'm a creative type. Well, all creative types, have some form to some degree. The really famous ones have some form of ADHD. Now, they medicate it with drugs, with alcohol. So you see a long list of famous people who killed themselves, who overdrank, who overdrugged, who had big emotional problems in their lives, and it went along with their genius. So some people say, well, I need my ADHD to be genius, and my thing is, no, you have your genius, whatever it might be, and everybody does have some form of genius. Whatever that genius might be, it will come out normally, but in a world where we're nutritionally deficient, then we tend to have these symptoms, hyper symptoms, which create the problems for us. So, some people say, I don't want to give up my ADHD. It's made me like this, I can work 20 hours a day. Well, guess what? When you heal your ADHD, you don't need to work 20 hours a day and you're still just as productive and creative, because a lot of people work 20 hours a day for 6 days and then crash for a week. Your life doesn't have to be so hyper. And what we have to learn is what are the different therapies that are all natural that have been proven to help this condition more than the medications that we're giving to children. And there's so much blowback on this with this book, which is kind of fun for me because I have all this solid research backing up all my ideas. They want to give medications to children and they say there's no side effects. I say, here's 9 universities talking about brain damage that occurs from using drugs. Here's one study over here from Harvard, which shows that you lose 28% of your brain's potential of dopamine function in 1 year of using Ritalin. I mean, who can question these things? And then when they get pushed on that, they go, well, that's better than not having a drug. And they compare to people who don't get any sort of natural solution for it. So they often want to pose the argument, do you take drugs or do you not? In both cases, it's a problem. What you do is you don't take drugs. You make some lifestyle changes, some changes in your diet. You get some extra nutrition to help heal your brain. And then you go about your life and you're much happier, just as successful, but successful in all areas of your life, your personal relationships, your hygiene, your health, and your career.